Listen to this episode if you aspire to have a big brand, a household name, yet you aren't sure if the actions that you're taking are actually matching up to the goals that you have. This is one of my favorite topics. I have talked about the difference between small business versus a brand, what the difference is in your actions and what it really takes all of the time. But I do really want to basically make an episode breaking down some of the key actions, thought processes, perspectives of a person that is trying to build a small business versus a person that is trying to build a brand, what the difference really is here, and how can we make sure that if you have some of these really big goals, that the actions that you are taking and that you are compounding are actually helping you grow into this big name brand that you are really trying to build. Now, a lot of my podcasts here are good for people of all different goal levels, different things. Today's podcast episode is going to be more for the person that has really big goals. You hear me make this distinction a lot between, this is a small business versus this is a brand. If you're doing that, you're trying to stay as a small business. Today, we're really going to talk about what the big difference is between the people that are trying to go for 7 figures, being in stores, being a household name, really being kind of like a legacy brand, yet their actions are actually kind of holding them back because they are acting as if they are a small business instead. Today, I'm speaking to the person who wants to take it big, who wants a multi-7-figure business, who wants to be known and loved and seen by their lovely big community that absolutely has this ride or die. There's nothing wrong with saying that you want to have a really big business and you want this to go big. Those are the people that we're talking to today. Now, if you are somebody out there that's listening and you're like, you know what? I kind of have my business as a hobby. I never want to quit my 9 to 5. This is really just a point for me to make a couple extra $1,000s a month, maybe bring in some extra money for my family, but I don't really want to have this big brand. That's okay. I just want to say that there's nothing wrong with that. That is a personal choice. We all can choose what type of business we want to have, how much money we want to make, all of that. There is nothing wrong with that. And I just want to say it. So there's nothing wrong with trying to stay as a small business. It's just if you want to stay a small business versus you have these really big goals, you have these big ambitions, your actions have to match up to it. And those are the people that I'm talking to today. So we're going to talk about what's the difference, how to know which actions you're taking, how to fix them, and how to make sure that you are taking the actions that are actually going to get you to the goals that you have deep in your heart. Now, before we do that, I just want to take 10 quick seconds to say hello and introduce myself, just in case you're new here. My name is Madison Page. I am a business growth specialist. I help small businesses turn into brands so you can really have this household name that you are trying to have out there. That is what we are talking about today. We put out new episodes every Tuesday and Friday. If you love this episode, make sure that you subscribe. I like to teach in a fun conversational type of way. So I like to say it's kind of like sipping coffee with the biz bestie. If that's up your alley, we would love to have you in the small business growth family. So first I want to tackle what really is the major difference between building a small business versus building a brand. In short, small businesses are short term. They're looking to bring in a little extra money. You might be trying to just kind of make a quick buck. You're a little bit more of a hobby. Maybe you want to kind of make an extra $3,000, $5,000, and then you're ready to just kind of plateau from there. You're good to kind of keep that, bring some extra money to your family, whether you are a mom and you just want to have, some money that you are able to bring in and that you have kind of this outlet, you have this creative outlet. But what this really is that you're thinking more just like smaller numbers. Not that $5,000 a month is a smaller number, but your goal is to basically bring in a little extra money. It's a little bit more monetary focused, a little bit more kind of hobby focused versus when you're building a brand, we are thinking of their brand name having more of a name. We're talking about you wanting to have a legacy. We are talking about you wanting to really build a big business. You have very big goals. The sky's the limit. You're thinking more 7 figures, multi-7 figures. You want to be in stores. You want to have, more of a legacy and you want it to be unique and different. And you're really wanting this to be a big name thing. I hear people use different verbiage for this all the time. I had somebody the other day say that they wanted to make it a grown-up endeavor, or, I want to really do this legit and I really want to make money and I want this to be a big thing. Today, we are talking to brand people. What happens very often is that people really desire to have a big name brand. You desire to have multi 7 figures or multi 6 figures, multi 7, whatever that kind of looks like in your capacity. You want this to be a bigger brand. Sometimes it's not even a revenue goal. It's really just that you want to have a name that is known and that is in stores. Maybe you have a brick and mortar someday, whatever that looks like. You really want to be up as a category leader. The actions that you're taking now have to match up with that. Even though you feel like being a category leader is so far away in the grand scheme of things, we still have to know that your actions now have to be setting the scene to actually get you there. Because if you act as if you are a brand and a category leader now, it's going to come much sooner for you because you're taking the correct actions as if you were that, as if you are trying to be there. So what we're talking about today is oftentimes the difference between what people do and what they really should be doing if they want to become this category leader, industry kind of head or household name. I primarily work with brands, and that is because I primarily work with people that love what they make, are willing to do what it takes, have a deeper meaning than just money behind their brands. They really want this. They have a purpose, they have a message. And I use money just because in people's minds, when I say like, you want to be a bigger business, a lot of times it's like a revenue goal that people have, but I don't care how much money you're trying to make. If you want to be in as a category leader, you want to be known, you want to make a difference, you have a passion, you have a purpose. My clients oftentimes are at that level. They are people that have a big intention behind everything that they're taking. They have strong values and they really do want this thing to last. They want this to be their full-time job. They want this to be their life and kind of, their quote unquote legacy per se. And why I'm bringing this to you is because very often I see these clients that have these really big goals, yet they are still operating at this small business capacity. They're operating at doing a lot of these things. And what I do is I kind of help bridge that gap. So what I thought would be a really interesting conversation today is the actions that oftentimes business owners are taking in pursuit of being a brand that is actually holding them back, that is actually making them stay small as to what that really is. So usually small businesses, they can either last a couple of years once their product is out of trend. A lot of times so is their business. Maybe they're just like trying to make some supplementary income. Once they kind of hit a dollar amount, they're okay making that and they don't really feel like they need to build anymore. And that brand is really built for longevity and it's adapting to the market and it's knowing how to execute it well because they really are looking more long term. So it's kind of short term versus long term. Your primary focus of a small business a lot of times is money, trying to get to a certain point, kind of revenue. And your primary focus of a brand is more legacy or, passion, value, mission, something like that. You're trying to make this change happen for people. So what I'm really going to do is I'm going to break down so you can decide which one you are operating as and which one you want to be, and maybe some changes in your actions that you can start making, some of your perspectives that you can start making that can really help you step up into actually taking some of these actions that are helping you step into more of this brand name, into more of this, building for longevity, building for a brand that's really going to make money and it's going to last. So first things first, kind of going down the list is oftentimes I see brands, what you need to be doing and what you should be doing is thinking of your brand as kind of an ecosystem. Your whole focus is when people come in contact with your brand and your branding, you are thinking of it as when they come in contact with my brand, they have a distinct image, a distinct feeling, a distinct message, and they know that they are kind of in your world. They should be able to kind of like step into your metaphorical like brick and mortar store and feel like they know that everything blends, that they're in your store, and that you basically have this ecosystem around your brand. Small businesses often have a focus on the actual product as opposed to this ecosystem and this feeling and this message that you have. Small businesses have a focus on being handmade, being all natural. There's really no like true feeling around their brand and they can't really put a grasp around that because they're like, I don't know, I just want people to buy my products. My products are so great. Small businesses often just focus on the product, whereas brands are focusing on how can I build an ecosystem of something that people want to kind of step into. And when they do, they know the message, they know the feeling, They know what we are trying to build. Once you learn this, I just had a client say this the other day that she's like, I've really been struggling with this brand. She's been in this bucket of us turning her small business into a brand. And she's like, we've been talking about branding for a long time and I really don't understand the concept of branding. But now that we kind of explained what building a brand ecosystem is, she's like, I see it everywhere. I see it in the coffee shops in my hometown. I see it in my favorite brands that I follow. I see people doing this really well and I see people doing it very poorly. And it really is the difference of somebody that's trying to build a business to scale and to adapt and to, change with the times, and that's going to last, versus somebody that's like really just trying to get their products out there and get people really product pushing as opposed to building a brand. The next one is trying to make the products last and known versus being a brand that is launching all of the time and trying to basically just make the money from your launches. Now, a brand, what they do is they come up with a very curated list, a curated collection. It can be one product, and it could be one product, of course, with the foreseeable future being that one product with the vision of having a more built out product suite eventually. But they can start with one product, or they can start with a collection of products. A brand keeps their product smaller to start so people can really dive deep into loving those products, get a lot of product education out there, get those products seen and known, versus a small business is oftentimes just pumping out new products, not really ever feeling fully connected to any of these products because they know that if they launch, they'll make a certain amount of money. So oftentimes these are highly collection focused. You're creating a new collection every month or every 6 weeks, or often you're kind of in this conscious, just like chronic cycle of launching because that's when you make money. Because oftentimes small businesses are only focused on making the money in the short term because they're trying to get to this point. Now, if you're trying to build a business for longevity, we can't be launching that often because you can't grow and you can't build if you are chronically launching. And so that is a really big difference that I often see with people, is that they come to me launching a lot, but that's actually holding you back because it's diluting your marketing, it's diluting your product suite, it's making it where it's a totally different model because you need people to be able to buy passively in order to actually have this legacy brand. You need people to know you need people to know your products, and you need people to really feel, see, hear, and love your products. The next one is that brands, something that's really important is to market to a very specific community. Whereas small businesses, when I ask them who is your target audience, they give me some sort of very broad perspective. Anybody can really benefit from my product is something that I hear a lot. Or, moms who just want better for their family. Like, every mom wants better for their family. What we're trying to do is really niche this down. When you are trying to build to last, when you are trying to build a brand, we need to know kind of that exact demographic that is really going to love your product, because it's so much easier to market to somebody when you know exactly who they are, what their motivations are, what lifestyle they're living. And so with brands, what we do is we niche down the community that you're trying to sell to, really master that niche, and then we can kind of build and expand on it from there. You see a lot of brands do this, is they start very specifically with a very specific niche, whether it be aesthetically or with a problem that they have or a mission that they have. And then when they kind of maximize that, then they start to build on out. And that's exactly what a brand really should do in this process. A small business oftentimes just tries to get their business seen. They're just like, whatever I can do, share this with your friends and your family. Their focus is oftentimes just getting this like bubble of people that love their product. And then once they get to that point, they can kind of plateau and they kind of go from there. Oftentimes small businesses get stuck in what I call the friends and family cycle, is it's really just like your friends, your family, and your acquaintances. And that's because that's the only people that you can sell to, because all you're doing is pushing product as opposed to building this brand. Why you can only sell to friends and family and acquaintances is because those people already have a connection to you. They already feel more connected to you, and your marketing is not connecting to new people enough to actually make them want to buy from you. So oftentimes these small businesses focus on friends and family first, trying to sell to those people, even if they're not in that ideal customer that we just talked about. And a brand, their focus is on looking at that ideal customer, looking at that niche, and really focusing on a community first marketing strategy, because they know they want to be in front of the right people, not just anybody. A lot of times I have clients that are like, hey, I have a really big big friends and family circle, I'll just send it out to them. And I say, well, are your friends and family within your ideal customer? Are they the person that we've mapped out that's like perfect for your brand that you want in your community? And they're like, well, some of them, but not all of them. I'm like, okay, well, we don't want to build a community and get stuck in this bubble of like your circle of people that we want to build to a very specific community. So we have to do everything to focus on how do we build a community of aligned people, not just anybody. Small businesses oftentimes are just like happy getting anybody into their community, where brands are trying to be hyper focused on the right aligned people, knowing that they are going to come back, knowing that they are going to refer you to people that they also really love, knowing that they are going to buy from you, buy bigger orders, and actually help your business grow a little bit quicker from there as well. Hey, I'm jumping in here for 30 quick seconds for those of you listening and thinking, all right, but how do I actually apply this to my business? Every week here, I share strategies, case studies, growth mistakes to avoid, but your business growth is nuanced. So your business support has to be nuanced as well. That's why all of my support includes me inside of your business, your ideas, your launches, your content, perfecting what you're already building and uncovering your hidden opportunities to scale. This isn't a cookie cutter course. It's a high level personalized support system to help you optimize your brand, your strategy, and every single person your business touches. If you want my eyes and my brain on your branding, your sales, your marketing, and your overall growth plan, click the link in the show notes to apply. Let's see what we can build together. The next one is that small business, their operations are more so focused on just getting by. It's like, they're thinking of it kind of as a side hustle. They're not really organizing or planning ahead. They're a little bit more reactively creating their business model. These are the people that are reaching out to me a couple weeks before Black Friday being like, hey, I haven't really done anything for the holidays yet. It's like November 15th and people have been buying for weeks. And these are the people saying, hey, what should I do for Black Friday? It's like, okay, they're not really planning ahead. There's not too much organization. They're kind of just like getting by week to week. They're in like their constant cycle. Whereas my clients that really make it big, have the household name, they are really trying to become a brand. What they need to do is they need to think big for their business. They need to be organized. They act as if they are that big brand that they already have. They're organized. They're planning ahead. They're creating their promotional calendar ahead of time. They know that if they can be proactive instead of reactive, everything is going to go better. So they focus on being proactive, strategize plans, having systems, all of that in place. Because if they have that, they know nothing can stop them. They are operating at this high level that they know that everything that they're doing is strategic. It's a really big thing that people that tend to see big results and are their brand is they are really putting this focus on intention and strategy behind everything that they're doing, because they know intentionality is what really creates growth. That really is at the end of the day. Another big thing to really look at here is that small businesses, oftentimes, when I say this, I just mean people that are like thinking in a smaller capacity or that struggle to kind of build into this brand. Oftentimes they make their purchases about them because nobody is buying from you that's a stranger and doesn't know you. And they're like, oh, I'm just here to support this small business. Some people might out of the goodness of their heart, but the average person is not buying from you thinking, oh, I'm supporting a small business. Now, I do this sometimes at markets or something like that. If I go to a farmer's market, I'm like, oh, this is a cute, young entrepreneur. Let me support her. But that isn't somebody that is trying to build a brand. If you're marketing to being handmade, to being, mama made, support me as a brand, kind of using those different pieces, nobody is doing that. What a brand is trying to do is talking about the mission that they have, talking about the message that they have, the values that their business has. What does it mean for the consumer? A big difference here is what I call selfish marketing. A small business oftentimes has this selfish marketing. Whereas a brand is more selfless marketing. You are marketing as to how is it going to help the consumer? What does this mean by buying from you? What does this mean for your consumer? What value are you providing them? What problem are you solving? You make as a brand, if you want to build a business that lasts, you create a marketing strategy that makes the person consuming your marketing feeling like buying your business is doing themselves a favor, and letting them know what is buying your product going to do for them, as opposed to what is buying your product going to do for you as as the business owner. Because truly, if you're really struggling to get out of that like friends and family bubble, it's because you're basically marketing as your business as being like a hobby that other people have to support. If you're trying to be a brand, what we have to do is we have to market again to that community, to what it's going to do for them. It's all about your consumer. Nobody cares. I know this is kind of harsh, but like nobody cares about you. They care about like what it's going to do for them. Another big distinction here is that a lot of my small business clients, or my clients that kind of struggle to break out of it, they come to me and they say, they have things that they constantly are saying, when I have more sales, I'll do this. When I have more sales, I'll get better packaging. When I have the community, it's like looking at it as like, I need to reach these milestones before I get quote unquote legit, before I get better branding, before I make a better website. But what if doing things right in the beginning is actually what separates you, is actually what allows for people to see you as a brand from the very beginning? I had a client that we just basically changed around her packaging and her branding from being a small business to being a brand. We took away the like craft paper brown packaging that everybody had in her industry, and we got her custom packaging. We took away this messaging of being handmade and, mama made and all of that. And we actually made it as to what is this product going to do for them? And literally when we did this, and I actually think this is the podcast episode coming out on Friday after this episode. So if you want to hear more about this story, subscribe to the podcast and I'll explain it in a couple of days, is she literally got all of these opportunities. She like 10x'd her wholesale orders. She started to get opportunities. She had major retailers reaching out to her just because we got her details and her branding really solid, where people really wanted their product in their store. And so, the difference here between small business versus brand is that small businesses see everything as an expense, whereas brands see everything as a return on an investment, knowing that it's going to be, the details is really what makes disruptive brands. So they focus on their branding, their packaging, their website. They do those things up front, knowing that it's actually going to propel them forward, build more authority, build more professionalism from the very beginning. And it's going to make such a big difference in how people perceive the brand, in the opportunities that they have. I have a lot of clients that when we start to get from a small business over to a brand, they start to get a little bit more legit. Opportunities literally start flooding at them, whether it's a massive retail chain that wants to have them nationwide, or they start to have influencers buying from them or reaching out to them. It really flips the script because people see them as something that they really want to be a part of, as opposed to something that you feel like you're begging people to have you in their stores, or begging influencers to share about you or to buy from you even. So people see that really want to build this brand. What's necessary is understanding that everything has a return. There's a reason that return on an investment is like the number one thing in all business owners' brains. I literally think about, what is the ROI of everything that I'm doing? What is the ROI of me painting tonight is going to be that I'm going to feel better in the morning. What is the ROI of me having better Wi-Fi? It's that my videos are going to upload quicker. I can see, okay, for me to upgrade to the next level of Wi-Fi is going to allow my videos, instead of taking 30 minutes to upload, it's going to upload them in 5 minutes. Think about how streamlined that process is going to be and how much time it's going to save. That's an ROI. That's worth my time. There's an ROI to solid branding, solid packaging, really good websites. Like a lot of times, this is kind of like the chicken or the egg situation, is what comes first, getting more legit as a business or your sales. A lot of times people are like, well, I want to build my sales before I get legit because it's going to cost me so much money. However, if I just get legit, it's what's going to bring me the sales, right? So brands know that in order to upfront, the details matter, and we have to really go from there. We're not just getting by. We're not just winging it. They really care about the aesthetics and the functionality and like what really makes sense there as well. Brands are constantly looking at their gaps. Something that I see from my clients that see the best results and that my clients that make the biggest change are the ones that are like, what is your feedback on this? How can I do it better? What is wrong with this? They're constantly looking at the data. They are constantly looking at their numbers. They're constantly wanting to find where things are going wrong. They don't feel rejection. They don't feel failure from those things that are wrong. They know that on the other side of fixing their gaps, more growth is coming. oftentimes small business owners, I see a lot of fears. I see a lot of excuses, and I see a lot of, oh, well, I don't look at my data. I'm afraid of what I'm going to see. I don't look at my numbers. I don't look at my pricing because I'm afraid of what I'm going to find. There's almost like this fear around the gaps and what that means for them. But a lot of my clients that are making $500,000, $1 million a year, $1 million plus, even $100,000 a year, or just my clients that rapidly see growth are the ones that are like, I feel the fear and I do it anyway. I'm nervous around this thing, but I kind of have to detach from it personally because this isn't a personal endeavor. There shouldn't be emotion around some of these pieces. So we feel a really big difference there as well. We have two more guys, kind of hang in there, and then we're going to do a good recap here as well. We talk about small businesses. A lot of their marketing is really focused around how can I just get my product out there? How can I share my product? It's kind of like checking a box. It feels kind of like an obligation. I'm marketing because I feel like I have to, not because I know like really how to do this. When it comes down to building a brand, they see their marketing as a way to build community, as a way to give back to their community, as a way to connect with them, share a message, provide value. Again, it kind of goes back to that selfish versus selfless perspective as well. Brands are marketing from a selfless perspective. They know that they have to provide for their community in order to get people to engage and want to go back from them, come back and watch it and follow them. So, oftentimes these brands, they're really marketing with feeling, education, value, meaning, quality to build intrigue and interest and value and community around their brand. Whereas a small business oftentimes is like, look at this new product I bought, go and buy it. It's very product focused. Last but not least is one that I find very near and dear, and I think is way more important than people really understand, is that people that have big brands seek out other people that have these big ambitions and these big goals to be in the same room as them. It's absolutely necessary to be surrounded by people that normalize, support, and really want you to achieve or are achieving themselves. I think something really important is realizing that anybody that has achieved what you are trying to achieve is never going to judge you. Anybody that has these big goals are not going to judge you because it's the same way around. When I started, I was in college starting this business. It was 2019, 6 years ago. I was in college. I was sitting there and I was in these circles of people when I was starting this business, my consulting business. I was in these rooms of people that were talking about making 20K months, even 10K months seemed like a crazy dollar amount. And then all of a sudden people started talking about 50K months and 100K months and 200K months and $1 million like launches. And I was like, holy cow, this is crazy. And I'm so glad that I sunk in to that type of people right away because it allowed me to be like, oh, these people are just like me and they're making $100,000 a month. I'm like, man, it normalized it of like, that's just normal in this world. And so if you are in a group of people that are fantasizing about $5,000 a month, and that's like, what everybody is saying, that's what you're going to see as really big and like outlandish. But if people just start talking about making it a $50,000 a month all the time, you are going to start saying, well, $50,000 is like a benchmark. It's like, it's easy. All these people are talking about it. It's simple. And so, it doesn't just have to be in a monetary perspective, but in a support perspective. A lot of times my small business people say that they don't have anybody to talk to about this, that they're kind of in this like vacuum, they're in their own thoughts and there's nobody else that they feel like they can like expand on their really big goals to. They receive judgment from some people and now it holds them back. They're really nervous to talk to their friends about wanting to make big money, or like they just don't really feel like they have that circle of friends that have big ambitious goals. And it is so incredibly important that if you don't have it, you need to find it. I strategically put myself into rooms where I have the smallest business all the time. I really want to be surrounded by people that have double the business I have, triple the business I have, and that at least have equal goals to what I have. My friends and the people that I hold near and dear, not all of them, I just want to say that, like, not all of my friends have these like big, huge ambitions. They aren't my quote unquote business friends. And I still love them and I still care about them and I still love spending time with them, but they're not the people that I'm calling when I'm like, hey, I'm struggling in this in my business, because they're not people that have achieved or what I want to, or that really understand what my goals really are in my business. But I have strategic people. And honestly, I have paid to be in these rooms. I continue to pay to be in these rooms all the time. I have flown across the country to go to dinner with these people. I have flown from Portland to New York City to just meet some of these people, to have more people within my network, because it was worth it to me to have some of their feedback and to have more people in my corner and to be in some of these rooms. So if you're finding yourself being like, I have no idea, who to talk to or how to do this, this is something that's really important, is to find them. And whether that is somebody like me, that's a coach, it's something that a lot of people hire me for, is to get out of their own head and like have somebody to talk to about business, or you go out and you find a network. I don't care. You just need people around you that want to do this. So to kind of recap here, and I just want to say this again and to reiterate it, if you have big goals, I am in your corner. If you want to make $5,000 a month, I am in your corner. There's no right or wrong here. Again, it doesn't matter, but I know, because at this point I've said this episode is for the heavily ambitious, the heavily driven, the heavily high achieving people that are going to make it happen. You have to act as though, and honestly, for a long time, I was kind of offended by that, because I was like, I don't need to act differently. I don't need to change who I am in order to, think differently, act differently in order to achieve the things that I want. I'm great the way that I am and I know I can achieve it, but that's just not the case. It is something that I really had to learn. Something that we really have to look at here is, if we consistently act small, your big results are going to take a lot longer. So if you're wanting to shrink and kind of collapse this timeline, we have to start taking some of these actions now. So brands, just to recap, invest in the details. They plan ahead so they can be organized. They feel the fears and they do it anyway. They don't let rejection hold them back. They know that their consumers and the community comes first. Everything they do is consumer and community first. They learn the necessary skills to keep on building. They're constantly learning. They're not worried about their fears or their gaps. They want to see their gaps. When I have a failure in my business, which I still do all the time, people do, it's just how it goes. Whether that's a failure of a podcast episode that I thought was going to be really good, or I tried this and it just didn't really work out, or my community didn't really respond well to it, I'm like, okay, great. That's awesome. I'm so glad that happened, because now I know it's something that I don't want to do again. Now I know what works better than others, and I can double down on the things that are working. And I know that wasn't going to work. So, brands aren't afraid to find something wrong. They're not afraid to uncover something that might be a little triggering, because they know it leads to growth. What I want you to take away from this episode is, if you can start being the brand now that you have always wanted to be, you are going to reach it so much sooner. The minute you stop saying, when I achieve X, I will finally do Y and Z. When I get this, then I will do this other thing. When I finally make sales, then I will invest in the details. When I finally, feel comfortable on social media, then I will start showing my face more. What I want to say about that is that you are thinking of this wrong. If you do the latter first, then you will actually finally be comfortable on social media. Then if you have the details, growth will happen sooner. If you start showing your face, you'll finally be more comfortable on social media. Oftentimes the end result comes from the action. Oftentimes the end result comes from what you have to do in that in between. And if you are looking to do this, you can do it now. You've heard me say this. I didn't think that I could give a TED Talk yet in my business. And it was something that I hadn't really started, was speaking. I had TED Talk gratefully, because somebody out there was looking out for me, came and found me to give a TED Talk. This was a big mindset shift that I had to shake. I could have given a TED Talk 3 years ago. There was no prereq. They liked it. I went through the process and they liked it. And so it's one of those things that if we act now the way that we want to achieve, you will actually achieve it sooner. You are holding yourself back. I listened to a podcast this morning that said we are oftentimes standing on our own wings and we don't even know it. And it's because we hold ourselves back. We have fears, we have stories in our own head. And it's really important for us to really take that leap into investing into the details, into thinking bigger, into doing the things that we want to do eventually and actually doing them now. Is it going to be scary? Is it going to take money before you might have money? Is it going to take some of these pieces? Yes, but it's actually going to, again, have that return on the investment. It's going to come back sooner. Whether that be branding, whether that be packaging, whether that be marketing, whether that be a team, whether that be a website, whatever that might be, the things that you do, even if it's just the actions, you're reaching out to people. There is no prereq. I have clients that, don't make any sales, but if we do the right things, they get asked into these retailers. You don't need to have 10,000 followers on Instagram to get into Anthropologie or Sam's Club. at all. You don't need any of that. There's a lot of brands out there that are smaller than you, that have worse quality products than you, that don't have half the heart and the drive that you have, that are achieving the things you want to achieve just because they have the audacity to just go for it. And that is something that I hope that you have as well. Get out there, have some of the audacity. I hope this was helpful for you. Something we're going to be talking about in the Small Business Cafe, which is my free podcast community. Would love to have you in there and expand on this conversation. It's just such an important conversation to have and really creating this perspective shift for you. I love you. I'm rooting for you. I'm in your corner always. I will see you in the next episode. If you liked this one, we are talking more about this and an exact process of how somebody got into Anthropologie. I believe it's on Friday. Don't come at me if that's wrong. So make sure that you subscribe to the podcast. We put out new episodes every Tuesday and Friday, and you'll hear that case study coming up really soon. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you in the next episode. If you found today's episode helpful and are looking for more tangible ways to grow your business, make sure you are subscribed to the show. If you want to dive deeper into this topic more, click the link in the show notes and join our completely free podcast community where we dive into every single podcast topic, as well as give some bonus support and free coaching calls. And finally, if you are interested in getting my eyes on your business to find your hidden opportunities to scale, apply to work with me one-on-one in the show notes or on our website. Remember, it's not enough to listen. Don't forget to implement too. I love ya. I'll see you in the next episode.